Hi all, AD here from Jaunts. As always, thank you so much for clicking on the video. I'm in deepest, darkest Sussex and I'm visiting the Church of the Transfiguration, which is in Pyecombe, and it's in the South Downs. We're just by the A23, which no doubt you can hear humming away there in the background. If you're not aware what the A23 is, it's the main road that links London straight down to Brighton, which is on the south coast. So this church, it's on the South Downs Way, which was a pilgrim's route, so it's really welcoming. It's got tea, coffee, water, toilet facilities for people walking past, which is absolutely wonderful. So warm and welcoming. I can feel the love before I even go inside. So let's go and have a look around. This is the Church of the Transfiguration. Although it's a fairly small place, there's an awful lot of history packed inside this church. It's a very welcoming church and it has a really important connection with the people who walk this part of the South Downs. Now the handle on this gate is a shepherd's crook, the Pyecombe Hook, and it links the churchyard directly back to the village's shepherding heritage, and it actually opens what's called a tapsel gate, and it's a very distinctive Sussex design where instead of opening on conventional hinges, the gate pivots around a central point, and there's only a handful of these surviving in Sussex. I believe it's 7, and they're concentrated around the Lewes area. Now the South Downs Way runs right past the churchyard, so if you're ever walking this way, it's a great place to stop, have a rest, use the facilities and just take a bit of time out if you want to. I think it's absolutely lovely, and there's actually a very long history here of travellers, walkers and pilgrims passing through the area. Now the church itself is more than 850 years old, with the nave and chancel dating from around the 12th century, probably around 1170 towards the end of the Norman period. And there was actually an earlier Saxon church here, and the area sits on some very old routes across the South Downs, so people have been travelling through this area for a very, very long time. And if you want to read a little bit more detail, there's this bit of information here, so please do pause and read. And also, in a moment, I'm going to be going up and having a look at the font, and there's loads of great display of information there. So again, please do pause and read if you want a little bit more detail. One of the most extraordinary things in this church is the medieval lead font. It dates from around 1170, so it's nearly 850 years old, and there's very few of these surviving fonts in England, so it makes it very special. And this one also has a great story attached to it. So during the English Civil War, lead was extremely valuable and it could be melted down to make bullets. So to protect the font from being taken and destroyed, it was supposedly covered in plaster to make it look like it was made of stone. And once the danger had passed, the plaster was removed and the medieval lead font was revealed again. Isn't that amazing? So when you look at it today, it's something that survived centuries of religious change, neglect, wars, and it was even disguised to save it from being melted down. And I just love these little stories because they make you realise just how much history these old churches have witnessed. And again, this was a great display. Much more information than I could possibly go into on the video, because like I always say, I don't do documentaries. I'm just vlogging and sharing with you what I've learned as we go around the church. So please do pause if you're interested. Some great information on there, and there's a beautiful stained glass window up above. Now, the church was originally connected with the priory of St Pancras at Lewes, and records tell us that land here was granted to the priory by Adam de Poynings and his wife Beatrice, with the grant being confirmed by the Earls Warren in the late 11th and 12th centuries. And I have actually got a video from Poynings Church. If you're interested, you'll find that on the channel. So again, it's just another reminder of just how far back the history of this little place goes, but the actual dedication of the original church is unknown, and the present dedication, the Transfiguration, is a much later one. The nave and chancel are essentially 12th century, while the rather squat tower was added in the 13th century. And as we look around, you can see this isn't some grand cathedral, it's just a small, simple village church. And I honestly think that's part of its charm. There's something very down to earth about it. And I can imagine people coming in here hundreds of years ago from the surrounding downs. And when you look at it today and see the walkers coming through in walking boots, stopping for a cup of tea, it's still serving a purpose, and that's quite special. The lovely pulpit here contains some 17th century panels. One of them in the middle there dated from 1636. As we head into the chancel, it has some interesting features. The window here is actually Victorian, and it depicts the crucifixion and dates from 1898. It's small, but it's very colourful and very beautiful. And also in here are some medieval encaustic tiles in the sanctuary, and they date from the 13th century. These now are believed to have been made at Lewes Priory, and some of them have designs like birds. You can see hounds and a stag there. And again, it's little details like this that you could quite easily walk past if you weren't looking for them. There's some really old ledger stones here in the chancel as well. And I just want to mention here that I had really quite a few technical difficulties, shall we say, while I was making this video. I lost some of the footage. A couple of the clips were turned upside down, but with the help of Google, I've managed to fix that. And when I come to the end of the video, for some reason, it cuts off just as I'm doing my outro, so you'll only catch the beginning of that. So my apologies. Hopefully it won't happen again. That being said, I don't think it's haunted. I didn't find it at all spooky. It was a very warm and a very welcoming church. There's even a visitor's book here, and the comments from walkers all over the world, all over the years, it really shows how much people genuinely appreciate having somewhere like this along the route. And it's been described in the visitor's book as a much needed relief on a long walk, and I can completely understand that. I just wish more churches were as friendly and welcoming as this one. I know not all of them can obviously offer the facilities this one had an extension in 2014, but I do think it is important for them to be welcoming and open, so visitors like myself can come and share them with other people. And in the long term, I think it's really important that people like us visit these places. I always make a donation to help with the upkeep, because it's so important for future generations, because so many of these buildings are being lost and closed, and a lot of the time if no one visits, they just end up going into complete ruin, which is just absolutely heartbreaking. So I'm just going to head out now into the churchyard. I really like this church because it's got the Downs, the South Downs Way, the heritage with all the shepherds, and it all comes together in this little place. And it doesn't feel like history quite often does, that it's been put behind glass in some sterile building. It's still part of everyday life here, and people still walk past here every day. People still come into the church, and people still use the facilities, and they've been welcoming pilgrims in here for 850 years. And the landscape around it here is still doing what it has done for centuries. People walking, farming, keeping livestock and travelling across the downs. And there's also something very poignant about knowing the pilgrims may have passed through this area hundreds of years ago. The church was being built around the time of the murder of Thomas Becket in 1170, and after that happened, huge numbers of people travelled towards Canterbury on pilgrimage. Now, the traditional Pilgrim's Way ran between Winchester and Canterbury, and although we can't claim that every pilgrim who came through here was necessarily heading to Canterbury, this was certainly an important route across the Downs and a natural place for travellers to stop. And today the pilgrims have effectively been replaced by walkers on the South Downs. So they may have different clothes, they may have different reasons for walking, but perhaps not such a different need for somewhere welcoming to stop and catch your breath. If you ever find yourself in the area, then it's definitely worth stopping off to have a look around the church. It's one of the warmest, most welcoming churches I have ever visited. And please do pop inside, have a look at that lead font and maybe sit for a while and think about all the people who have passed through the doors over the last 850 years. Some of them would have been locals, some of them would have been pilgrims. Wasn't that a wonderful church? So warm and welcoming, absolutely loved it. You could really feel that it was genuinely welcoming. So the rest of that video clip is completely gone. No idea what happened. Apologies. So I was just about to say thank you so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, hit the hype button, hit the notification bell so you know when I've posted my next video. Doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps the channel. But you can also buy me a coffee if you want to, or become a Hunts and Jaunts Society member, and you get some perks, some behind the scenes stuff there as well. So if you're interested in that, it's all down in the description below. So thanks again for watching. Bye for now.